I'm here today with Michelle, who's one of the biologists at the North Carolina Aquarium, who helps take care of our sea turtles. We're on one of the beaches adjacent to the aquarium, and we're here to talk today about sea turtles and their nesting season.
Yes, that's right. This is our nesting season, and actually we're about halfway through it already. We started our nesting season back in May, and we go all the way through October. So we've already had quite a few nests in bogue banks.
How long does it take once the eggs are laid till they actually hatch?
It usually takes on average about 2 months for the eggs to hatch, but if the nest were laid earlier in the season when it's kind of cool, then it may take longer, or if they're laid late in the season, it's cool, it may take longer. But if they're laid right in the middle of summer and it's super hot, then they'll incubate faster and it will take less time.
And then what a lot of people don't realize is that the sex of sea turtles is actually determined by the temperature that they're incubated at.
Correct. So if it's a warmer temperature, then we're going to produce more females, and if it's a cooler nest temperature, then we're going to produce more males. So a lot of times the eggs that are in the center of the nest will be a different sex than the eggs on the outside of the nest. But here in North Carolina, since we're on the northern range for, say, loggerheads, we actually will produce more males than we would, say, South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia.
So they get females down south and the males up north. But there's also the question about whether climate change will potentially impact the long-term survivability of sea turtles.
Right, so even up here, when it's cooler, we do get quite a bit of females too in our nest, but we still make more males. But as the warmer it gets, the more females we're going to make.
So here on the beaches in North Carolina, here on bogue banks, there's actually a large number of volunteers that help sort of manage the populations of sea turtles and look out for their health and well-being.
Correct. Even on bogue banks, even in 20 miles, we have a couple hundred volunteers that actually will work on the beach every morning, patrolling, trying to eliminate obstacles for the turtles, as well as if we have a nest, they will process the nest and start monitoring it. And then once we do have a nest, the volunteers will actually come out and sit with the nest and make sure that the hatchlings get to the water safely.
You follow the track back up to the beach and you find, okay, there's a spot that looks like they've been doing some excavation. What do you do at that point?
We actually will mark it off and rope it off, and then we actually put a sign on it. That way people know it's there, and that way the police won't drive over it and the people can walk around it and avoid stepping on the nest.
And after the roughly 60 days or so, I know all the volunteers get excited because that's when the moment comes that the eggs are going to hatch, and all the little juvenile hatchlings make their way up through the sand and scurry off to the beach, and there's a whole process to prepare for that.
Right, that is definitely the glory of what we do.
And then once all the hatchlings have made their way down to the ocean, there's a whole process for then processing the nest after the hatching event.
Right, so about 3 days after, we give them about 3 days because sometimes they don't all come out at one time, and it takes them a couple days to come out. You might have a couple stragglers that are crawling out. That way we give them 3 days, and then we dig into the nest, and we actually want to inventory the nest. We want to know how many actually made it out of the egg and crawled out. If any of them died, we want to count those too, or if any of them are alive, we want to count those as well.
So you're able to count the eggshells that are left in the nest, and that'll give you an idea of how many eggs were laid by the female, and that'll help tell us about the health of the reproductive population.
Right, then we know almost exactly how many made it to the water, in which case it's usually, for our area, it could be 100, 120, sometimes 130 eggs.
And then also sometimes there's a little bit of surprise when you excavate the nest. Sometimes there are hatchlings that are in there that were too weak to crawl out. Well, what do we do with those?
The guys that are too weak to come out, when we get them out, we give them a chance to see if they are full of energy and ready to go, then we let them crawl down to the beach like everybody else and get in the water. Sometimes they are physically unable, in which case those are the guys we take back to the aquarium and we'll work with for as amount of time as they need, and then we'll release them back out as well.
So the guys that are too weak to crawl out of the sand by themselves, they go back to the aquarium, they get a little TLC, some nourishment, some hydration, and some veterinary care if they need that, and then grow them up, and then hopefully sooner or later we'll be able to release them back out into the ocean, and they can become part of the healthy population.
Yes, that's exactly what we do. We just address whatever needs that they have and whatever problem or issue that they have, and we try to fix it, and then we get them back out.
And for the beachgoer that's here on vacation, there's some sort of beach etiquette rules that will help let the beachgoers have a good time, but also ensure that the sea turtles have a good chance for the nest to hatch properly and the sea turtle hatchlings to make it back into the ocean. What are some of those common sense rules?
Well, when they leave the beach, they can make sure they leave it just how they found it, which means that if they happen to dig a hole or if they build a big sandcastle, when they're done, if they fill that hole back in or take out that sandcastle, that will help out a lot, because that big sandcastle may create an obstacle that a mother nesting turtle can't get through or the hatchlings can't get through to get back and forth to the water. Also, if there's a big hole, they can also fall into that hole and get stuck in that hole and not be able to get back out.
From a sea turtle perspective, that can be a death trap. As a little small hatchling who's only about 2 inches long, he can't really climb very well. He'll fall into that, and that's pretty much the end of him at that point.
Right, so if they don't get injured falling, they're stuck in there. They become open to any predators. So if a bird sees them, they'll eat them, or a crab will get them and eat them.
What else can we do?
Well, these guys are, for the most part, coming out at night. Usually these guys are hatching out at night, in which case they're using light cues from the moon and reflection off the water to get to the water. If there's lights that happen to be behind the nest coming from a house or from the street, then they actually will go the wrong way and head back toward the dunes, in which case the dunes are full of predators that will eat the turtles, in which case those guys won't make it. So what people can do is they can just shut off all their oceanfront lights, and that way the turtles will not get distracted by that light and go the right direction. Also, if you happen to encounter, lucky enough to encounter a nesting mother or hatchlings that are coming out of the nest, you can keep a safe distance away from them, and that way you don't interrupt their nesting activity. A lot of times just a presence of a person around a turtle will be enough for them to stop nesting or not nest at all and go back to the water. So you just keep a safe distance and observe and enjoy a rare thing.
And then there's a fourth option we can take care of also.
Well, yes, there's also, you can help us with trash. The trash is also a big obstacle if you're walking around the beach. You can just pick up the garbage, and that way that doesn't make it to the water, because even the little hatchlings will pick up little plastic and impact them as well as the adults. The other thing you can do when you're walking around on the beach is if you have a flashlight with you, you can put a red filter on the flashlight. That way if you encounter an animal, you're not going to distract it as well. They can see the red light, but it doesn't affect them as much as a white light, and that will help them as well.
And then a lot of people bring, we like to bring all our creature comforts, our chairs, our tents, our umbrellas, and it's heavy to haul that stuff back and forth to the house every day. But if you leave that on the beach at night, that can also impact the turtles.
Right, so if you have a tent or a chair, it's best to just take it off the beach every night and bring it back. Those chairs, the turtles can actually get stuck in the chairs and not be able to get back out of it. They've actually found turtles in the ocean with the chairs still on them where they can't get out, and it has killed them. Also, the tents or whatnot, the animals can't really see the obstacles, and they will run into them. If they run into them and get frustrated, a lot of times they will go back and not nest. If they come to the beach and leave it just how they found it, then the turtles will have a nice area that they can pick their spot and have a nice safe journey on our beach and back to the water.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.